to different states. So if I'm traveling from a different state, and this is my dad, and my dad is an immigrant from Dominican Republic, who I don't know how he knows this, but he was telling me about it. And he was like, because if you come from a different state and you don't have that sun pass, or you don't have whatever, because no other state has a...
I wonder if the way they get around it on 95 is because it's optional. On 95.
From when I learned in my budgeting class was that, you know how like we are what's it called, state free or whatever.
State tax, yeah.
Really, we have a tourist tax, so they use the express lane, the express lanes to actually pay. So we pretty much pay for the tourists. And that was a big fight this last legislative session. Number one, people were really upset at the barricades on 95, and they were like, "It's dangerous. This has to go away."
It's very dangerous.
That was a thing that's legislated at a state level, and then the Sun Pass being able to do what they do itself was a big fight around that, especially around Miami-Dade, because Miami-Dade has the expressway and all of that. So it's all of that, I just wish people understood how much more, again, of just everyday stuff is not determined by a president. It's determined by...
But that goes back earlier when I said from what's it called? It was the midterms, right? Last year. When I was seeing everybody from different, color ribs, from different communities, it was either women or they was black, or they was they was Spanish or some type of other from culture or whatever. And I'm like, I know her. I know him. You know what I'm saying? I know what he could do for the community and stuff like that. So
I will say this was my first year ever, because I voted for Obama in his second term. I wasn't able to vote for his first term, but that was my first time ever voting for a presidential election. And then I did the primary for Bernie 4 years ago. Well, 3 years ago. But I had never voted in a midterm until the one that just passed.
Gillum.
Yeah, for Gillum. And I was so... I know. I was so grateful for you sharing that video, because I didn't know. I was literally going in there because it was the mayor, and I didn't need another... As a teacher, aside from knowing that there was another act, there was an amendment on there that allowed me to get a raise, and I was telling everybody, please vote yes, because even if it's 4 years, I have a raise,
But that's important. Y'all need to get...
But those were the only two things that I knew about, and then I sat there, and I was like, whoa, there was so... And then there was something else for Jamil, but it had to do with...
you know how the veterans have the benefits? So pretty much they were saying that the firefighters could have the same benefits
for their families. I think that's what the amendment was. So those were the only two amendments that I knew I had to vote for.
And you voted no for the dogs and then do the racetrack.
Yeah, I didn't want that. And then it was the mayor cat, but I didn't know all the other things that were there, and I was sitting there, and hopefully I don't get in trouble, but I looked for the video, and I read
you can do it.
I read the captions and of what I was supposed to do and what I wasn't supposed to do, and I literally sat there and was like, okay. And then I researched the individuals who were candidates for their respective areas. But I voted in Dade because I'm still a Dade resident. Because I haven't legally changed until we get a house. I don't want to change my address. Yeah. But that's what I did. And now that we're going into this election, I really don't want to have that situation. So for me, I have to be educated. I have to know what I need to know these things so that I don't make that mistake where I'm running around in this election with my head cut off.
No, that's really important. I mean, you'll see these people putting up flyers and stuff everywhere. And, they'll have, if you check your city websites, they'll have forums, they'll have all of those things. They do a terrible job at getting the word out to people because they just don't want people to come, to be honest. But so you'll have to go look for them. But they'll have all of those things going on. But the city stuff is so important, and I'll say it because there's a they just put like a 5G pole right outside our window. Like this 5G like satellite
it's like
box.
A meter
right out our window, and I've been hearing like terrible stuff about 5G and what it does to people, and I'm like, y'all ain't even asked us. Can you put this like right outside of
my
our
house
bedroom window? Like you don't know the safety hazards for this, whether or not it's good or not. Studies have not been done on it, and that was my city commissioner that put it there without even asking me. It's like you gotta know about that stuff because they'll put anything anywhere without asking you unless you make some noise about it.
Yeah, and I was saying this on Facebook today. I was like, we need to make farmlands great again down in South Florida because I feel like, yes, you know, you want to build more homes for people who, especially like, it's getting bigger and bigger, but you remember, we all was born and raised here. You know, remember in the good old days, like, there was so many farmlands. We had the farmers market and stuff.
You had to drive very far for them,
they getting rid of it now. It's like, bro, like, come on, man. Like, we can't forget that we need these resources. You know, so that's why I was like, man, one day, I don't care what no one says, whenever I have the resources and have the money, if that lot ain't doing nothing, I tell that lot down, just build a farm because we need more. Need more of it.
And all of that is like regulated. Like that is somebody's city, somebody's county that's saying what that land could be used for. So that's why elections have consequences. Like if you look at Flint, if you look at what we know about landfills in black communities, like the air we breathe is like controlled by an election at this point. Like how we get our electricity, what that electricity looks like, where they can dump stuff, like which schools get funding, what that funding goes to. Like we were just at a school board meeting in Dade County a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about there's now going to be a school resource officer in every school, one in every school. But then they went down the list of mental health counselors, and it's like, we've got 40 for the district. Yeah. Like, that's an elected body saying where they're going to put money. Because they could decide to do something very different with that money that will impact our kids. So it's like, I mean, we beat our head against the wall.
And they just, before this last session, you couldn't grow fruit in your front yard. Yeah. Right? So if you did it, it was against the law, but now they just passed it where you can. So you can grow food in your front yard if you want to now. Right. So, I mean, everything. So if you would have went out there and planted some cabbage, they would have came and wrote your ass.
My grandparents...
That's the state.
I didn't know that because my grandparents... they're immigrants from Dominican Republic. They lived in a farm. That's like if we go, whenever I take John, and we go to my grandparents' farm, like right outside, you have like eggplants growing in the ground. You have like I don't know how to say cosecha, but it's like a whole field of plantains and yuca, cassava. They have all of that, and when they came here and they got their house, they didn't do it that intense, but like I remember there was like a watermelon vine outside, and we had watermelon every summer. We have a huge avocado tree in the backyard. Yeah. You know, there was at one point they had beans growing in the backyard, and they were growing fruits in the front, and I'm like, you guys don't live in the farm anymore. Yeah. But I looked forward to every summer that watermelon vine. I looked forward to every summer the avocados coming in, and now they have like sour oranges, or they call it Chinese oranges. That, you know, whenever we're making pork, you grab it from the tree, you cut it up, and you put it in the pork. Like, you don't have to go nowhere. Right. So that, to me, I didn't even know that was illegal. And now to know that it is legal, and my dad can now grow his tomatoes without getting worried about being arrested.
You could have did it in the backyard. It's not in the farm. But now you can do it wherever.
You do whatever, yeah. Like, for me, I'm just like, man, you got to learn how to balance stuff. Yep. You know, like, I feel like, you know, when Amazon was built down here, I'm like, I loved it because more jobs being created, you know, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want it to be so crowded.
But how do you know?
I don't want to be so crowded because...
But how do you know that Amazon is building... They built the building that they built right next to the Opa-locka airport. And then right on the other side, there's like a country club being built, right? how do you know that they're actually taking from the community in which they're building in? Because in a way, technically...
No, they taking... No, I'm saying...
Listen to what I'm saying. In a way, technically, they're kind of genderfying that area.
They're trying to.
They're trying to.
Because why?
Because Amazon, you remember one of my line sisters, she didn't live in Atlanta. But she was moved from Atlanta. She was moved from Detroit to Atlanta to work in the Amazon. So how do you know that they're not finding someone else from another place to bring them to Miami rather than go right across the street to the apartment buildings that are there and find people that can possibly work there?
I know that. Like, it's, big companies, they're not going to have everybody from their community. They're going to have people from other places. But I'm saying is that it's still opened up enough jobs for people locally. Now, what you talked about with the community trying to gentrify, like they try to do in Wynwood now, where they're trying to build them high rises, that hurts me. It's like...
No one knew of Wynwood. I didn't even know of Wynwood.
I knew of Wynwood. I'm just saying.
Until...
I used to go school shopping there.
Yeah, like...
In the warehouse.
I tell all the time, like, the Miami cemetery... My great-great-grandmother is buried up. She got like a white,
I keep telling you need to go there.
How they used to be buried back in the day when they put the casket in the...
Above ground?
Yeah.
It's called the Bobeda in DR.
So every time I went by it, and then my mom was like, all of this Wynwood, overtime, all this. And then I'm like... And when you do your research and stuff about it, when you read about it, I'm like, like for what? Like in New York, how they gentrify Brooklyn and they trying to do that with Harlem and stuff.
They were trying to do it with the Bronx.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's going.
Yeah, Amazon is an interesting company though, man, because I was in a whole training on Amazon, talking to like Amazon workers. Mm-hmm. How terrible the conditions are in the warehouses, man. Yeah. And how the jobs just aren't good jobs for what they're having them to do. Mm-hmm. It's basically like for one, the temperatures that they working in there is based on however the robots, the temperatures that the robots need to survive, right? So if the robots need it colder, then they make it colder. If the robots need it hotter, so it's not based on what the humans, right? And then the second thing, and this is a shitload of stories that they were telling us, and Amazon's just in everything. But like the workers were saying that their production is speculated down to like the second, right? So like workers sometimes were saying they have to pee in the corner because if they took time to go to the bathroom, their supervisor would like say, "Hey, what were you doing for these 78 seconds of your job?" Mm-hmm. And they get like criticized down to 78 seconds. Mm-hmm. Like, and they're just sitting there like, what the fuck do you mean, like 78 seconds? So it's like really strict.
Dang it, Amazon, if you weren't so...
and they have a super high turnover rate. But, when people need jobs, and I think that's another thing that people should start thinking about. Like when they got kicked out of New York and they didn't do it there. Yeah. It's not just about jobs; it's about what kind of jobs are they? Mm-hmm. Right. Are they good jobs? Are they jobs that people can sustain their family? Right. Are they jobs that are not going to run people into the ground and not be able to like live a life from it? Right. What type of jobs are there? Yeah. And also with the city can like. The city commissioners get to negotiate that contract with Amazon. Right. They put over and over locker, right?
Yeah, I heard about that.
So like if Amazon's not hiring people from the community, then that's the city's fault. Mm-hmm. That's the county's fault, right? Right. Because they have to get a contract with the city for the land. Yeah. Right? And then that contract you can say, hey, look, if you want to come to Opa-locka, and you got 50% of the people that you got working here got to be from this zip code, which is our area. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, then you get fined until you do it under this contract, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a whole bunch of things that the cities can do, and if it ain't getting done, then it's probably somebody's fault. Right?
Yeah, because No.
I was gonna say, and to that point, that also makes me think of like going